Speaking of texting, if you're dating someone, don't say I love you. Saying I love you is like pulling out a knife in a street fight. Once one person does, the other person has to. Can you imagine if the guy didn't say it back? I love you. Roger that. We've only been dating about 3 months. Yeah, but at BBC, 3 months counts as 3 years. It's dating at BBC counts like dog years. Because regular people go on 1 date a week, and BBC people go on 4 dates a day. How come you stood me up at lunch? I don't think blah 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 blah. I should really be listening. Blah 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 blah. Do you agree? Well, I don't disagree per se. Another thing that's different about BBC dating, kind of the opposite of the outside world, the secular world, is that at BBC, second base is like the knuckle brush while you're walking. First base is sustained eye contact. Third base, however, is when you let her see your calves. Some friend counseling his buddy at the dorm. Hey man, you gotta be careful, you're gonna get the monies. BBC has some interesting things about it, interesting quirks. We have a lot of unique people. Answer! Just joshing. Just Josh Ralston. We have a lot of interesting people. We even have a velociraptor. And then, of course, there's Michelle Martin. Hey, Mr. France, what's the homework this week? I'm not sure where I'm supposed to look, Michelle. Speaking of not knowing where to look, have you ever known someone with a lazy eye? I used to have a lazy eye. And I swear that people would talk to me like this. Yep. Because they weren't sure which eye to look at. I wanted to say to them, I never did, but I wanted to say, why don't you look at the eye that's looking at you, not the one that's wandering around. Here's a clue. If in order to maintain eye contact, you have to do this, then you're probably looking at the wrong eye. Sometimes the lunch line's real long, and you're way up the back, and you figure that people are slow getting their food. But then you get up there close enough to look, and you see the whole stage is empty. And you're like, what is the holdup? And then you hear a voice, oh, you forgot your card? Well, I left it back in Kentucky at home, and my mom's gonna mail it. Now, is it in the mail? Or maybe you're just too lazy to walk back to Loescher and get it. Don't make me come over there. Then, of course, 10 minutes later, the guy's back and he's like, yeah, my mom faxed it. So this is a facsimile of the card from Kentucky. This is not my card, real card. Speaking of Kentucky, you ever noticed that people with southern accents are like slower, not mentally, but just in the way they live their life, more relaxed, like, how y'all doing? Sounds like they're getting a face massage. Hey, on down to the store. And I was like, wow. And people from the north, it's interesting, when they get angry, they articulate even more. Why did you do that? from the South, when they're angry, they try to do that, but they've never developed the muscles of articulation, so it gets louder, but just more incoherent. They're like, shut your mouth! I said shut your mouth! Shut your... Now, I know stereotypes are not true in every particular case. I know that. But in every particular case, they are funny. And that brings me to my next point, is that Asian people, when they get mad, they're very polite, respectful, and then they throw a ninja star at you. And Italians, my dad's Italian, when Italians get angry or upset, they can never quite think of the key word in each sentence, which is why they gesticulate so much. It's never like of or the that they forget. It's always the most important word. So my dad would be like, out in the yard, there's a snake, Dad? Yeah. Now, I have that problem even worse because my dad was Italian and my mom was Native American, and they had the sign language thing going on. So if my dad, I have it like to the 10th power. If my dad's like, there's a, I'm like, there's a, Last joke. One time, my family was at a Chinese restaurant. My brother-in-law from Mississippi was there, my sister and my parents, myself. And my dad comes running back from the bathroom like, the commode, she's overflowing, we'll come help. My brother-in-law, he panics in this situation. He's like, shoo. And my dad's like, we need the, and I'm like, we need the, The manager thinks we're destroying his bathroom. He comes in and he's throwing ninja stars at us. My mom's out in the lobby dialing 911 via Morse code. She's sending out smoke signals. I would rather that not have happened.